So, thinking about other companies, why did the FTC go after VPL Medical?
Yeah, so while I was being sued by the FTC for Redwood, in 2019, I helped co-found a company called VPL Medical. This is before COVID. I found out nobody in the United States was making surgical face masks in volume. Nobody was making them. They were all coming from China. Now, look, I love China. I love everybody, but I also love manufacturing in America. Okay. So right as COVID was hitting, I helped co-found VPL Medical, and we started manufacturing in massive volume surgical face masks because they weren't being made in the United States. Super great timing. We did everything I was supposed to do in my FTC litigation. We wrote the FTC, we wrote the receiver. We said, hey, my attorney, Stephen Koshel, who's one of the most winning attorneys in the United States against the FTC, he wrote them and said, Mr. Cardiff is working on a three-ply face mask company, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? We were really successful. And we started to make a lot of money. People wanted face masks. They wanted them made in the United States. COVID was just taking off. And the receiver of a group called Rob Evans and Associates, who was the court-appointed receiver, had spent all of my money on himself, and he had run the bank accounts to zero. Well, he found out that I had a new company that had a bunch of money in it. And when he found out about that, they went to the judge and they totally fabricated a crazy fake story that I wasn't really making masks, or it's not a real company, or it's a scam, or it's a whatever. And they got the judge to include VPL Medical in the original litigation with a new injunction and a new asset freeze. VPL Medical had nothing to do with Redwood Scientific. The only thing that tied VPL Medical to Redwood Scientific was the fact that I was a co-founder. So the judge allowed it. We appealed it at the Ninth Circuit. So we appealed it. We went to the appellate court and said, this is clearly all wrong. This should have never have happened. And the appellate court agreed with us instantly after the Supreme Court ruling, and sent that ruling back to the district court and told the district court, you're wrong. You can't include VPL Medical. This has nothing to do with anything else. And VPL Medical's got to be released. Unfortunately, the district court, the FTC, the receiver had already done the damage. By the time that process had taken place, COVID was in full swing, and VPL Medical had been damaged by the receivers, because when the receivers put in place, they're then managing the company, or I should say mismanaging the company. And they were just there to take money out of it, right? So they took another $3 million for themselves out of VPL Medical. Yeah.
So, I'm going back to what you said earlier about a lot of things that were said about you that were not correct about just your company. You mentioned multi-level marketing. I was curious, where did that come from?
Yeah, so we don't really know, other than that group we use for websites that builds multi-level marketing websites. But there's this blog on the internet called Behind the MLM, and he picked up on this piece of litigation because he hates, I guess, everybody. I don't know who this guy is. And just started writing and writing and writing. Everything the FTC would write in their drafts, he would post on there. And of course, he thinks everything the FTC says is true. And so it just picked up steam that somehow we were a multi-level marketing company. Meanwhile, nobody could find a customer of this multi-level marketing company. Actually, we proved in court the website that we hired from this company, we never even used it or turned it on. We bought it and we had it and we never even used it. So the worst part is these behind the MLM guys, they're hiding out in, I think I read they're hiding in Singapore and Taipei. They're just like bad guys, you know. Yeah, they're just bloggers that just get a hold of something and just post stuff. They're totally worthless.
Okay. So, how much of your role in this case has the council played? We see you have over 714 filings.
Yeah, we have, if you look at the docket, we have 700, maybe it's up to 800 filings now, maybe 780. And that's a filing, like each one of those filings can have between 200 and 25,000 pages. We would be nowhere without Steve Koshel. Steve Koshel is the lead counsel. He's become a very dear friend of mine. He's a very, very good person. He takes cases on where he knows that the government has done wrong and the people are really, they're good people. They've got great businesses and the government's just come in and overrun them. Steve was a previous JAG attorney for, Navy officer attorney in the Navy, and then went on to have a pretty big career. And he is also the one who beat the FTC on one of the large cases that was tied to the Supreme Court case in the Seventh Circuit. He's had a lot of really big wins. I think the FTC is probably more scared of him than even some of the large firms. He understands exactly how the FTC works. He understands that, look, they're not really smart attorneys. They're just a bunch of them that can write a lot of paperwork and send a lot of paper your way. So a mountain of paperwork comes your way, but they make incredible mistakes. They make huge gaping mistakes just because they're really not very good attorneys. And they're not very intelligent either. So when you get a guy like Steve Koshel at Koshel Law, if you're lucky enough to have him take your case, he's all the difference. He's just all the difference in the world. So we're well thankful to him forever.